What Nigerians witnessed when Pastor Chris Okafor went on his knees before his congregation to publicly apologize was not just a personal moment of remorse. It was the climax of a long, messy, highly publicized chain of allegations, arrests, counterclaims, social media warfare, legal threats, and spiritual controversy that has reignited a national conversation about power, accountability, and credibility in Nigeria's church space. And to understand why that apology mattered, you have to go back to how this story started and follow it step by step, without emotion, without rumors, but with facts as they unfolded in public view. The controversy began when Doris Ogala, an actress and media personality, came forward with allegations involving Pastor Chris Okafor, founder of Grace Nation Church, formerly known as Liberation City. According to Doris, she had been in a close personal relationship with the pastor, one she claimed went beyond spiritual mentorship. She alleged that Pastor Chris had made promises of marriage to her, had emotionally and materially benefited from the relationship, and then abruptly attempted to cut her off and distance himself when he decided to marry someone else. These claims immediately caught public attention because of the stature of the pastor involved and because Doris framed her allegations not as gossip, but as a story of emotional manipulation and betrayal by a powerful religious figure. As the accusations spread across social media platforms, Doris escalated her claims, alleging that Pastor Chris Okafor was involved in practices inconsistent with Christian doctrine. One of the most explosive accusations she made publicly was that the pastor had allegedly buried charms or fetish items under the altar of his church, a claim that struck at the heart of his spiritual credibility and triggered outrage among his followers. This particular allegation marked a turning point because it crossed from personal grievance into claims of spiritual deception, which in Nigeria's deeply religious society carries enormous weight. Shortly after these allegations, Doris Ogala was arrested by law enforcement authorities. Reports at the time indicated that the arrest was linked to petitions filed against her for defamation, cyber-stalking, and making statements capable of inciting public unrest. The camp of Pastor Chris Okafor's camp maintained that her claims were false, malicious, and damaging to the church and its members. Doris, on the other hand, insisted that her arrest was an attempt to silence her and intimidate her into withdrawing her allegations. The situation escalated further when social media activist and commentator Martins Vincent Otse, popularly known as Very Dark Man, stepped into the controversy. Very Dark Man publicly criticized the arrest, questioned why a woman making allegations was being detained instead of being investigated, and used his platform to demand Doris's release. He framed the arrest as an abuse of power and a misuse of state institutions to protect influential religious figures. Following mounting public pressure and online agitation, Doris Ogala was eventually released, a development that emboldened her supporters and intensified scrutiny on the pastor. After her release, Doris made fresh allegations, claiming that Pastor Chris Okafor had offered her $10,000 in an attempt to persuade her to stop speaking publicly about their relationship and the accusations she had made. This claim, which she said was backed by messages and conversations, further fueled public suspicion and shifted the narrative from a private dispute to an alleged attempt to a quiet settlement to suppress damaging information. The pastor's camp denied this allegation, insisting there was no such payment offer and that Doris was fabricating stories for attention and revenge. As the drama continued, another explosive element entered the picture. Very Dark Man conducted an interview with a woman who claimed to be Pastor Chris Okafor's biological daughter. In that interview, the woman alleged that the pastor had engaged in an inappropriate sexual relationship with her, a claim that, if true, would constitute incest and criminal behavior. It is important to state clearly that this was an allegation, not a proven fact, but the gravity of the claim sent shockwaves through the public and intensified pressure on the pastor. Following the interview, Pastor Chris Okafor reportedly initiated legal action against Very Dark Man, accusing him of defamation and spreading false information. Very Dark Man responded publicly, stating that he possessed additional information and evidence, and warning that attempts to silence him would only result in more revelations. This public standoff created a tense atmosphere where many Nigerians began to interpret subsequent actions through the lens of damage control rather than transparency. It was in this environment of mounting pressure, reputational damage, and unresolved allegations that the situation took another dramatic turn. In a move that surprised many, Pastor Chris Okafor later went before his congregation and issued a public apology. Kneeling before the church, he acknowledged that mistakes had been made in the past and apologized directly to Doris, asking for forgiveness in front of the church and the public. While the apology did not explicitly confirm the specific allegations, its tone and setting were widely interpreted as an admission of wrongdoing, or at least an acknowledgement that the situation had been mishandled. For many observers, this moment raised a critical question. Why apologize publicly if nothing inappropriate occurred? The apology immediately divided public opinion. Supporters of the pastor described it as a sign of humility, repentance, and spiritual maturity, arguing that Christian leadership requires the ability to admit faults and seek forgiveness. Critics, however, saw it as a confirmation that Doris Ogala's claims had merit and that sustained public pressure had forced an admission that legal threats could not suppress.
To them, the apology was not redemption, but exposure. This controversy has reopened long-standing concerns about the abuse of power within Nigeria's religious institutions. Over the years, several prominent pastors have faced allegations ranging from sexual assault to financial exploitation. Figures such as Bayodo Fatoyinbo, founder of Commonwealth of Zion Assembly, faced rape allegations that sparked nationwide protests and debates. Apostle Suleiman of Omega Fire Ministries has repeatedly denied accusations of inappropriate relationships with female members, while Pastor Timothy Omotoso of Jesus Dominion International faced trial over sexual abuse allegations involving minors. In many of these cases, outcomes were either inconclusive or controversial, leaving victims dissatisfied and the public distrustful. The recurring pattern is deeply troubling. Powerful religious leaders accused of serious misconduct, alleged victims facing intimidation or arrest, prolonged legal battles, and eventual fading of public attention without clear accountability. This pattern has led many Nigerians to question how spiritual authority can become a shield against scrutiny and how faith can be manipulated to silence dissent. The Pastor Chris Okafor and Doris Ogala saga fits squarely into this pattern and forces an uncomfortable but necessary question into the open. How many pastors are truly servants of God, and how many are simply men with unchecked power operating behind religious titles? How many churches function as places of worship, and how many operate as personality cults where accountability ends at the pulpit? When a pastor is accused of sleeping with church members, or worse, with someone alleged to be his daughter, and the response is arresting the accuser rather than investigating the claim, what message does that send to victims? The public apology on the altar may close one chapter of this story, but it does not resolve the deeper issues it has exposed. Apology without transparency leaves questions unanswered. Forgiveness without accountability leaves systems unchanged. Faith without integrity becomes performance. For Nigerian Christians and the wider society, this moment should not be about picking sides, but about demanding standards. True spiritual leadership should withstand scrutiny, not fear it. True pastors should welcome investigation if it clears their name, not rely on influence to silence critics. And believers must begin to separate genuine faith from celebrity religion. The Doris Ogala saga is not just about one pastor or one woman. It is a mirror held up to Nigeria's religious landscape, reflecting both devotion and danger. The question now is whether Nigerians will look away once the headlines fade, or whether this moment will mark the beginning of a deeper demand for truth, accountability, and integrity in the places where people go to find God.